whether or not processing it has removed it.
One of the materials which is present in black bryony is oxalate, which is a salt which is present in many plants, in particular parts of the tissues like the stems and leaves of rhubarb and also spinach. But the amounts that are present vary enormously, and somebody using black bryony as a relatively sole source of starch and protein might have consumed rather a lot. We've seen in looking at the microscope images that it's present as a very fine needle-like crystal. But what the microscopy has shown very clearly is that these crystals are present in quite large quantities. If this was a source of food, then the presence of these needle-like crystals might have created problems in some people with formation of stones. And I have acquired or borrowed some examples of kidney stones from the museum here at King's College London. These are oxalate stones which were removed from the bladders of individuals. In some cases a very long time ago. This one was removed in 1850. Can you imagine having that removed in 1850?
Goodness me, but excruciating.
Yeah.
Now the big question is, has roasting and leaching removed the oxalate? Let's first examine the cheeky yam from Australia. Here is the raw cheeky yam, where you can see the arrows of oxalate, and here is the cheeky yam after processing. So it looks like it has been successful. So what about the black bryony?
Tony, what was the effect of these processing procedures on the black bryony arrow-like crystals?
Roasting and leaching resulted in a reduction of the amount of oxalate. The analysis shows that the oxalate was removed as a consequence of the washing process.
Do you think there's any chance that our ancestors could possibly have eaten this thing as food?
I think that they may have eaten it. I mean, as you know, when you actually roast it, and this is a freshly baked one, it actually has a smell which is very tempting. I have to say I didn't succumb to temptation.
Yes, it does smell pretty good. It smells very chestnutty.
6,000 years ago, maybe it was a relatively sole source of starch and protein at this time of the year, in the autumn and the winter and the spring perhaps. Potentially it could have been a useful food. However, there may be something else present as well. Remember that the old herbal references to black bryony indicate that it's really toxic. The root is toxic.
Yes, absolutely.
So what we have proved is that the process we saw the Aboriginals using on the cheeky yam has also worked on the black bryony and has removed the harmful oxalate poison. We can't yet be 100% certain that it is now safe to eat, because there may be other toxins contained in the root. But it does go to show that simple processes such as this could well have been used by our ancestors to make use of roots that we just dismiss today. We're almost at the end of our woodland journey, but there's one last thing I want to do, and it should be a real treat.
What I'm building is a spit so that I can spit roast a wild boar. Even today in the summer all throughout Britain you can find pig roasts, hog roasts. I think it's one of those timeless recipes that has endured for thousands of years, and it's going to be really entertaining spit roasting a boar today, a real feast.
The wild boar was a common woodland animal and would have been a celebrated kill by the hunter-gatherer. This is just a young boar, but a large adult boar could weigh more than a red deer and would have provided a huge amount of meat. One of my favourite things about roasting a boar is the crackling, which I'm going to prepare by adding salt and then basting with honey. And to do that I need a basting brush, which this piece of hazel should be ideal for. I've made a parallel log fire which throws out an amazing amount of heat, considering how much wood is actually burning.
And what I'm going to do now, just because I can, is I'm going to baste this meat with honey for the last half hour of cooking or so. Oh, yes indeed. Bum-ba-dum. You know, the problem, Gordon, is I usually get carried away munching into the odd bit of this while I'm doing the butchering.
Yes, I think it's impossible not to.
Oh, beautifully cooked.
Wow.
Well, obviously there's more meat here than Gordon and I could handle on our own. So I've invited some friends who've also helped us over the years in some of the projects to come and sample some of the delights of this boar. And apart from the sound of some of the crackling on the fire there in the background, the other thing I can hear is salivating off camera. Why don't you come and have some? Shall I give you some for that? Yes.
Although time has moved on thousands of years and we live in a very different world, we still have many of the wild foods our ancestors did, though sadly we have lost much of their essential knowledge. In this series, we've only scratched the surface of the resources our ancestors would have made use of, but it's been a fascinating journey. It has also made me feel closer to understanding where we've come from, not just in an historical sense, but in a way which tells us more about ourselves, and perhaps ultimately where we are going.
You know, when I go to museums and I look at exhibits of our Stone Age past, you've always got these illustrations of the earnest hunter returning with the animal with a stern look on his face, and you forget the sense of community that came from those activities. That's how I like to think of the past. Perhaps on this very spot, 6,000 years ago, who knows, maybe a 13-year-old boy had shot his first wild boar with his uncle, and everybody was collected together to celebrate. That's what I like to think about. The sound of laughter, of happiness, of people thriving in our landscape. What do you think? Not bad, is it?
Stay with us on BBC Two for brand new unmissable drama. The corridors of power are about to sizzle with party animals next. And over on BBC 4, the evolution of Christian art in the art of eternity.